Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. Hello. In today's podcast, I'm going to talk about the 7 most common mistakes we make when we promote ourselves. One of the things we find, well, particularly as entrepreneurs, CEOs, and also this applies to everyone looking for a job or career or trying to get ahead in the career world, there are 7 common mistakes we make when we promote ourselves. Self-promotion is a struggle for many of us. So don't feel bad if you struggle with it. I do too. We know we should do it and do it more often if we want to gain that visibility and credibility. We do need to advance our careers or get new business or get new clients. But it's really not a simple task. And it doesn't just rely on one gender. It relies across genders and across status and across just people in general. Because really, I don't like to categorize anyone, but we generally fall into 3 categories. One is the person who promotes often. They're very flamboyant, they're ego-driven manner, they talk about themselves all the time. It may or may not be well received. Now, I have worked with some people who are more like that, and they're able to do it with a kind of flair that works, but that's not common. So that's one you might want to avoid if you don't have that flair. There's those who attempt to be really nonchalant about it, shall I say, or ambivalent. Because they're so challenged to do it effectively, they just kind of say, well, it was luck that got me here. It was this help that got me there. But they don't take and own what really they did and what their benefit is. And lastly, they're really the people who don't even try. Regardless of the category you think you identify with, there are some common mistakes that we make in promoting ourselves. And today I'm going to talk about those 7 steps and then give some ideas on how to get past those 7 steps and some things to do. The first mistake is we really allow ourselves and our beliefs to be limiting. So we might lack the self-confidence that holds us back, that will hold us back from self-promotion. So that lack of confidence, your limiting belief, those things hold you back. So many of us have heard this, and it's that, well, if you self-promote, that's really bragging, and nobody likes someone who brags. Well, self-promotion can go in a different category than that, and I also believe you can promote yourself without it considering other people thinking of it as bragging. So, in general, when you're taught to be humble and, not really being recognized, you might look at it that way and say, well, if I'm going to do that, it's really bragging, it's not good. But we're promoting ourselves now. So we need to talk about ourselves. We need to learn about ourselves and make it something that we can do and that we do feel good about. The other mistake 2 would be we rely on an elevator pitch. Now, I don't know how many of you have been to seminars, workshops. I have myself. Countless ones that talk about self-promotion, and they begin with the elevator pitch. The way that it generally works is you're asked to do an elevator pitch. You might even be given a template. Here's your elevator pitch. And you're told to memorize the pitch and then look for opportunities to share it with others. It's a very stylized pitch, so it can be challenging and stressful to deliver because it never really seems like it portrayed me. It was never really authentic. And I couldn't get it to resonate with my audience. And I oftentimes felt like it didn't fit with who I was talking to. So I do not use elevator pitches anymore. I look at those as being something we talked about in the past, something we need to get over and let's move on to how we can effectively communicate with others and know that we're telling them and helping them understand who we are, while also helping them in ways that will benefit them. Mistake number 3 is we don't know our value. Now, when I've written about in my blog posts and on podcasting about brand identity, I often talk about establishing your value. So I would say if you don't already know this, take some time to think about what your value is. How do you contribute? I mean, how can you possibly promote yourself effectively if you don't feel like you have value? You do have value. You just have to dig a little bit to look for it and to decide what it is and see it yourself. And you may even enlist other people in helping you think through your value, because that oftentimes really helps to know what other people's perspective is, and they can help you give that perspective that helps you really determine your value. You need to really know your value proposition and believe in the strength of your contribution, because that's going to allow you to position yourself as helping others in the organization reach their goals, meet their objectives. So that is really understanding your value proposition builds visibility, credibility, trust, and influence. Another mistake that often is made is we talk about our past accomplishments. Now, I've done quite a bit of interviewing with people. When I sometimes consult with a company, they might want to hire someone for a certain position, and they ask me to sit in or to interview. And someone might start out with, and that is often a question anyway, what are your accomplishments? But it's dwelling on the past. 5 years ago I did this. 4 years ago I did that. A year ago I did this. It's really important to keep track of your achievements. I'm not saying don't forget about them. Be sure to keep them. Be able to recite them. But look at them in the eyes and the way that your audience would see those accomplishments, and how does that position yourself as being able to take those accomplishments and ongoing and future business solutions. So you can take what you currently have done or your past accomplishments, look at them from your audience's point of view, and then look at them and portray them from a standpoint of future. What is the future going to help? How is this going to help them in the future? So again, knowing your value proposition is very key. Another aspect and mistake is we don't understand our audience. And I have this happen when I talk to people who sometimes don't understand who I am and what I'm doing. And maybe they need to ask. But communicating your value or your message is really going to be important to know who you're talking to. You need to understand what the others want. They're thinking about themselves. What do they want? What's going to benefit them? What do they need? Let's talk about it kind of in a 3-step process to kind of take it down to that level of just 3 steps. 1, you understand your value. 2, you understand what others want and need. And 3, you're going to then identify how you can help them based on your own value proposition, how you can add value to them. That's very powerful. Not easy, but powerful. The other mistake is that we don't take enough time to have allies and champions across the organization or our area that we're in, or wherever we are, developing relationships. Now, in the COVID-19, this has been a challenge, but you can still do it. There's still Zoom meetings you can participate in. There are networks you can participate in. So it's really helping other people promote you. So if someone like that is your ally and they're a champion of you, they're going to talk about you when you're not there, which is highly important. It's very reputable is when someone says good things about you when you're not in the room. And your network can also alert you when there's new opportunities, new things are happening in the company, they can let you know. The last mistake that I want to talk about today, and this is there's a belief that our work speaks for itself. I'm going to put on our work, I'm going to say this is what I did, and hey, you're going to see my value. Well, that can be a dangerous mistake. Good performance is a given for career advancement. You're not going to advance unless you have good performance. But you need to communicate and demonstrate to others the value you bring. The belief that, you're just going to put your work out and that's going to help you get ahead is really not a good one. I'd like you to really remain on people's radar and potentially be very visible in what's going on and providing what you can provide to them. And again, it goes back to what's your benefit for this particular audience. Now that we've gone through these mistakes, let's talk about some of the things that you can do. I've touched on them in this podcast, but I'm going to give you some additional things to think about and kind of cull it down a little bit. The first one is, again, we're identifying your value from the eyes of the audience. So think about what you offer creatively and then how that provides value to your audience. For example, as a consultant, I prepare for each meeting I'm in, whether it's a first-time client or I've had them for a long time, and look at ways that I'm going to provide value to the agenda that's being offered in that meeting. And if you're in a position where you're in a company, think about preparing. You should always be prepared, but be prepared with something to say in a meeting that's helpful to that meeting and contribute ideas that you're wanting to excel in or that you excel in. Continue to develop relationships with those in your field and your community. Okay, we're in COVID-19, we're quarantined, we're not out there in the world, but we can be doing Zoom meetings. You can introduce yourselves on LinkedIn. Start trying to formulate that network now, and then you can build on it as we get to be more in the community again. Share your wisdom. Show people what you know. Make yourself and put yourself in as an expert in your field. So, for example, you might contribute articles to trade publications or publications that are within your group, blog posts, and you might have a website where you're blogging, you're showing your expertise. Remember to be informative. It should be well written, timely, and valuable to readers. Continue on that vein of developing relationships and build your own community. Create a network of your like-minded people in your field and work on connecting deeply and really getting to know each other so that you can all contribute to each other and promote each other. Help others is along that line also. You can see where if you're helping others, you're also contributing to your self-promotion. So you might, become a trusted advisor. You might be a mentor to someone. You might join a local nonprofit that you believe in and use your talents there. I joined a nonprofit some time ago, and I did it because I really believe in what the nonprofit is doing. But I was surprised to see all of the board members that were on there were actually people that I could connect with and contact with, so they can see what I do in the real-time environment. We all need to be very social savvy, and by that I'm talking about social media, which is its own big topic in itself. So we want to, spend time on the social media platforms where your audience is. Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, anywhere where your audience is and you can provide, whether it's shortened blog posts, whether it's an answer to a question, putting yourself up there as an expert in some of the field. Share some of your expertise for free and really build your base of fans, people who trust you and look to you for your expert advice. You will find that they will be the ones talking about you to others, and that's a very, very strong way to be introduced. And last but not least, I'm going to say, remember who you are is the message to your world. So every word you're going to say, everything you communicate and do is a message to the world and should be part of your brand identity. Just as a good organization protects its brand, protect your reputation by being intentional about the words you speak and the actions you perform. I hope you found value in my podcast today, and we'll come back another time when we'll talk about other subjects related to marketing. Thank you for listening, and I invite you to join me next week as we talk more about specific actions you can take to reach your own business goals. You can find my library of other inspiring podcasts like this one at onpointthinking.com. Again, thank you for listening.